Whitman from Callison Architecture, Jeff Lipitz from 3M. We're co-chairing this fabulous event on hybrid retail. Thank you all for coming. Grab a seat. Plenty more chairs up here. Squish it. Tanya, come up here.
Don't be shy.
I'm not shy.
Don't be shy.
I don't have that phone.
Oh, really?
Right. Well, welcome once again. Some general housekeeping for our IIDA chapter. Let's see what we got. First, we'll start out thanking our sponsors. We have our 2015 Diamond Partner sponsors, Lane Office and Dirt. And we have, it's hard with all this paper. Platinum sponsors, Hayworth and Collection. Gold partners, we have All Steel, HBF, Gunlock, Herman Miller, Hans Grohe, and Knoll. That would be the next slide. It's like rubbing your head and all that stuff. Thank you. A lovely assistant.
Yes.
There we go. Gold sponsors, Lutron, Steelcase, Coalesce, Design Techs, and Meadows. Here we go. Still figuring this out. The silver partners. And we also have some additional silver partners. Our 2015 design firm partners, Canon Design, Environetics, HLW, HOK, Perkinsville, Rockwell Group, Unispace, and Vocom. And a special thanks to all of our event sponsors. Without you guys, we wouldn't have any beverages or candles. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Alu in mind, whose house we're in. Thank you for the space, all of you.
Thank you.
Alessi, Artesio Metro, Armstrong, Coalesce. For the furniture up front, it's Coalesce. Tanda Sentiva, Dugal, all of our graphics downstairs, and gift bags, and lots of others inside of the gift bags. Nydri Flooring, BFI, Waldner's for the delivery of the chairs. 3M, L'Oreal, also lots of goodies in those gift bags for you guys. Henderson Engineers, and Bonobos. Thanks for everything. Go through these ones.
Okay. I'll switch. So obviously, our chapter's initiative is to create awareness of professionals of the design industry, and we're proud to present the IIDA newsreel, which will give you quarterly information about our chapter and related design events. Okay, a little housekeeping. Upcoming chapter events. Check them out on the website. Then we have our upcoming A&D industry events also on the website. Feel free to check those out as well. And then key dates, people. Make sure you know them. NCIDQ dates and deadlines also on the web as well. So please make sure you have everything there that you need. The examination is given twice a year. IIDA offers a free NCIDQ study group to assist designers with prep and for the examination. Thank you. And then more information on the chapter you can find all here. You can post events and lots of fun stuff. Check our calendar for more events, holiday events, and it's all there. And you can always find myself and Clayton, and let's do it.
A little shout out here.
And
To
then,
Laura Louie. Where's she from? Front and center.
Come on up,
Laura Louie. For all of our
for the media for tonight.
all our social media. See her for all the hashtags IIDA New York, IID Retail, and the hashtag Retail Forum. Let this event be known and kind of spread the word to the rest of our industry. So that'll be great. If you have any questions on that, see Laura. Let's see. Next slideshow. Want to give a special thanks to the committee. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do this either. Jeff Lipitz, co-chair, sorry,
Yeah.
butcher your name. Brittany McAndrew, Alu, Mind. Vera Ribeiro, Alu. Elena Paris, Alu. Brenda Reingold, Tanda Sentiva. Michelle Decker, Callison RTQL. Laura Louie, Callison RTQL. Tanya Batia, Callison RTQL. D. Fontana, Callison. Christina Magrins, Callison RTQL. Sarah Schumacher, Arcadis, Eileen Dr. Gensler, Welkina Daly, Gensler, Amberly Isabella, Gensler, Kate Russell, Gensler, David Campagna, Gensler, Jean Tassone, Dugal, and Joali L'Oreal. Also, thanks for all the beautiful flowers. And Joali. Done with that one. Oh, we're already questions and answers. Time for drinks. Thanks for coming. All right, next slide there. I've got the clicker. Once again, to our event sponsors, thank you, thank you, thank you. Want to introduce to you our moderator for the evening, Michael Gaddy, studio director and principal at Gensler. Ta-da. And also our distinguished panel, starting with Adam Carmichael, Director of Store Design at Saks Fifth Avenue. Brandon Lee, Visual Manager at Bonobos. Bradley Skaggs, Managing Partner at Skaggs Creative. And Charles Petretti, Vice President of Store Planning and Construction at Christian Dior. And now I will turn it over to Michael to take us on this adventure of hybrid retail.
Adventure, excellent. Okay, well, you took down the definition of synesthesia. I thought that was just interesting. Well, first of all, thank you for having us here today. I appreciate it, and it's a great panel. I know some of these guys for a long time. Some I've just met this evening and over the last couple of days. But it's amazing as I look around the room how it's a terrible word, but incestuous this crazy business of ours is, because there's one degree of separation, it seems, with all of us. It's like, wow, I remember you, and I remember you, and you moved over here, and now we're moving over here. So it's incredible how tight-knit the retail business really is. They sent me this, and I started to read it, and it felt like a romance novel. The production of a sense impression relating to one sense or part of the body by stimulation of another sense or part of the body. Wow, that's crazy, sexy, isn't it? But okay, I get it. All right, so I understand what they're saying. So what we're going to talk about tonight is a little bit about this hybrid retail and the influence of that really sexy statement on the retail experience, and what we feel is happening in the business, and how we as designers have to react to that. For us at Gensler and in the firm I worked with before, I'll tell you a little bit about my relationships with these guys. But what we think about now is there's so many ways to buy things. There's so many ways to purchase items. We have to create more than that. We have to create a space that people remember and people think about and want to come back to, because I can buy Dior on Amazon. I checked it today, but that most people who go to, I know, terrible, right? Yeah, but it's real. So what we need to do when we create these spaces is do a little bit more than that. So what I was going to do is just kind of ask these guys to talk a little bit about what they're doing in their business, and kind of make it more of a dialogue rather than a question and answer period. And anybody chime in when you guys feel comfortable with it. And if anybody has questions during the presentation, just go ahead. I'll come out and I'll give you the mic and you can talk it up. Adam Carmichael, sitting here to my left, near left, he's with Saks Fifth Avenue, and we happen to be working on, you guys have all heard of Saks Fifth Avenue, right? Yeah, okay. All right, so I mean, obviously a major brand. Everybody knows about them. We're working on a little store on Fifth Avenue across from Rockefeller Center. You might have heard of it. We're working with them. This is an example, obviously, of an incredible heritage brand. Obviously, everybody knows about them. And you have the core customer, you have the old school customer, and you have the challenge of what's coming next. So for us, we've got this challenge with you guys, and we talked briefly about what you might want to talk about tonight, about how you guys are driving the new creative retail experience. So maybe just turn it over. You want to talk a little bit about that and what you guys are doing in some of the stores?
Oh, sure. Can everybody hear me? Good? Let's see here how this actually works. We'll get me there? Okay. Well, what we're trying to do, unfortunately I can't share with everybody the items that we are planning. So I have all these beautiful pictures that are professionally shot for your viewing pleasure that everybody can go into and experience right now. But of course I can allude to some of the items that we're planning. And to be honest with you, there is always that big question of how can we actually make a new and exciting environment. Saks Fifth Avenue at some point I remember thinking to myself, well, I can't even walk in the door there. I don't even know if they have anything in there for me at all. And what we're trying to do right now is to create these exciting moments of surprise. What we're doing to the stores through either minor renovations or major renovations or ground up new stores is really trying to take the store bones that we have and turn them into a wow experience. There is what I like to say about our environment is that really, and all of us, what we're doing as interior designers, particularly in retail, is we're trying to embody the three-dimensional brand experience for what our brand is. Everything, whether it's luxury or if it's convenience or if it's value, you really want your customer to come in knowing that that's exactly what they are being surrounded by. And what we do at Saks Fifth Avenue is we're trying to create this environment which can have this museum-like quality, but also have all the cues of residential design and boutique hospitality design to make you feel comfortable and at home. So there's the austere to instill this wow and grandeur of those beautiful Dior couture gowns that we have, or there is also the moment where we can actually sit down and chill out and actually make a connection with your associate and somebody who's going to help you dress for whatever occasion that you want to. So, I mean, really, it's a layering of heavy FF&E, custom finishes, handcrafted materials, hand-applied materials, bespoke wood flooring, and a spectacular decorative chandeliers, layered with incredible visual moments and art pieces that can either be applied in the space and in the field or be bought. We have a legacy of art in our at Saks Fifth Avenue. We have pieces of art from everything from Carlson Clay to Wegman to Mapplethorpe in our archives that are peppered, and Richard Phibbs and photography and paintings and fashion photographers that we have throughout the stores. And those are really carefully thought out by our visual merchandising team. And then our store design team and our planning team really come in and try to create everything that's a permanent thing. The tables, the inset area rugs that are hand knotted from their wool and silk Tibetan area rugs. There's, like I was saying, just handcrafted plasters and all these beautiful layering of pieces to create this environment. And as far as creating a new level of customer experience, there's places in our stores that some people don't even know about, like the Fifth Avenue Club here, that we're trying to open up to the public to let them know that, hey, there's a special place in our store that you can come shopping and not have to run around the store looking for everything. You can pair yourself up with an associate, and they can have everything pulled for you in a beautiful room and environment away from the fray. And even if you're going to spend $100 or you're going to spend $10,000 or more, you're welcome to these private areas. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, and what we're doing with you guys on the design side is creating a space. I mean, we're competing, I think, as retailers, we're competing with with other museums and other experiential destinations, and it's more about it's less about the basic transactional retail stuff, which is what we were always designing towards, and more about adding the art piece and
Right.
these extra layers. I've got more questions for you, but let's
Yeah,
move
let's
to
move on.
Brandon here for a second. Brandon's a visual manager at Bonobos. I have a bit of a connection with Bonobos because, if memory serves me, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It was about the hockey butt. Was something that I remember, like it was a good fit for a guy who was a little bit bigger at the time, and right? Am I right? Okay, good. I didn't.
That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
So I can give you first of all, who knows of bonobos? Okay, good. That's a good start. It's not bonobos, it's bonobos. So bonobos, I'll give you a little history first, because what we were founded on and what we intended to do in the beginning is very much pervaded into all of our design, what I try to do with our store build-outs and all the decor. So in 2007, Andy Dunn and Brian Spalley, they are now at this point split, but Andy Dunn is our current CEO. They set out to make the best pair of men's fitting pants out there. So they implemented a curved waistband to hug the waist a little more, and then they also tightened up the thigh region to eliminate what we call diaper butt or hockey butt. So fit for us was of utmost importance.
Go ahead, Charlie. Stand up. Let's hear it.
So I think somebody needs some bonobos pants then. So fit for us is of utmost importance, and that goes beyond just pants for us. The second kind of pillar to us is customer service. Our founders were, you can consider them really guys. They're finance guys. They know that they have to look good, but they don't necessarily like to shop. So the idea that we are based on these two pillars really comes into everything, and customer service is huge for us. So in 2011, our offices from California moved to New York, and our span of clothing reached outside of just pants. And at that moment, we were an e-commerce brand, so people who were shopping online, they were still wanting to touch and feel the product. So we would get random people coming up to the office, like, can we try this blazer? Can we touch and feel this shirt? And so that's when it was the aha moment. That's when the big moment came to us, like, we're an e-commerce brand, but I think we need to make a brick and mortar store because we get all these people still coming in. So in 2012 was our first guide shop. We call it a guide shop, which is equivalent to a traditional retail store. Our first one was set up in Boston. And that's when the start of us rolling out physical stores came to be. And now that brings me to what a guide shop is. This is a guide shop, which everybody will traditionally know is it's a store. But the one big difference to us is that we still remain an e-commerce brand. So if you come into our guide shop, you actually don't walk away with anything. But for us, that's the benefit. Our core customer are guys who, they don't want to walk out with anything. And we are also converting guys and other customers like, yeah, of course, why would I want to walk out with anything? So that's a big part of our business model. And how that relates to the design is a lot, is that we don't carry inventory, so we have almost one of everything you see on our website. And then we have a size run of everything. You can get fitted, find out your sizes, but you don't have the inventory in the store. What that means for how we choose our locations is huge, because we can choose locations that are more typically smaller than traditional retail locations, because our back houses are relatively non-existent. They're there for, the manager to have a desk, have a little break room, but that's it. We don't have to spend the money on filling out also front and back of house. And so I would say that about 90 to 95% of our selling of our floors or square footage is actually selling floor. So in relation to, this is our San Diego store, which is actually one of our largest stores. Now, being very closely connected to our customer, knowing who he is, I like to kind of equate the way I design things like a hand of poker almost. And it's like you want to bet just the right amount without making your opponent fold. Here's the same thing. Our guy may not know, any avant-garde reference. He doesn't know abstract, like pins. He doesn't know all that. And we don't want to make him know that. What we want to do is to really connect with him and elevate him in an incremental way. So our finishes and it's white oak veneer. It's a poured concrete floor. And then we have, if I go back, you'll see a trellis up top, that's red oak. So these are 3 materials that we use all the time. And they were kind of influenced from a Japanese influence, but this is kind of our standard. And we're, again, not using very high-end materials because we are a startup too. Eventually we will. But again, it's more about comfort level, and that comfort level relates to how our customer service with our customer. So,
Brandon, if I may, I
Yeah.
want to just mention, because I think one of the interesting...
We are the forerunner. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
the first and the best. So, for me, and it's interesting because I did buy Bonobos, well, and still do, and I've seen it online, and I was just at the Brookfield Place store. There you go.
Yep.
And I was pleasantly surprised because this felt higher end than what I was used to seeing on the internet. So, and I'm going to get into this a little bit with Bradley next year about that mesh between the online world and the brick and mortar world. Where did this, the inspiration for this, you're kind of explaining, but where did that all come from? And it seems to change, it seems to feel a little different to me than it does
Yes.
online.
So I'll flip through kind of our other variations of our newer stores to kind of note on the, it's our newest store here. It's to that point, you can see actually we have 20 stores right now. 10 of them, 9 of them are of an older style, and then the others are of this style right here. And you can really see the transition of the kind of the aesthetic trend between the two. And that relates to how we are trying to, again, kind of bring the guy out from the man cave, which I really hate that term, and put him into what I like to say an elegant den. Right? So this is my elegant den. That's where it is. So you can see in those first 9 stores, it's heavily based on a very heritagey menswear kind of feel. But obviously through men's clothing, we're kind of advancing out of that feel, and things are becoming more minimal, more monochromatic, and that's when the switch in our clothing also happens with the switch with our store designs too.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the word, I think we've all heard the word showrooming. I think this is an example of that, because I was surprised to know that I can't buy Bonobos clothes in those stores. But if I may, let's move on a little bit, and then we'll come back to some more questions. Bradley Skaggs, managing partner of Skaggs Creative. Bradley, I think you've got as big a challenge as anybody, because people come to you to kind of figure this whole thing out. I know you work with companies that are coming from overseas, and that's one part of your business, and how will they work here in the U.S. But I think it's more important for us maybe tonight to talk a little bit about how that we use the term multi-channel, omni-channel connecting points, for all of us. And your company seems to be one that people go to make that all happen and kind of pull it all together. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So Skaggs, we're the odd guys at this conversation here, because we're not architects, we're not interior designers. My partner and I both were architects at one point in time. I worked at studios for 10 years, and we started our agency about 17 years ago. So in that time, we've begun to work with various brands, foreign and domestic, who maybe have a very strong online presence, who are trying to drive traffic to retail, or they have a retail presence, they want to drive it online. So the point of all that is that it's very important today that there's this experience that's created, either in store that has to push online, or vice versa, the way around. So we would fall between exactly these two realms we're talking about. So what we find is that brands are, things are changing very, very rapidly. So the way stores are designed today, the way they need to work with technology, the way they need to embrace and actually plan for the next thing, changes a lot of what goes on. For example, I would argue that if I asked who does not have a mobile device on them at this moment, the answer is probably going to be nobody. And that's a very important thing when it comes to retail. 43% of people who are shopping in a retail environment are shopping on their phone in the store, either to validate a purchase, to compare prices, to perhaps even order the product online because the store doesn't have it in their size, they don't have the right finish, whatever they're looking for. So there's a lot of these things that we try to help brands understand and plan for. I think I mentioned to you, Michael, there's this sort of growing notion of me-commerce. Me-commerce being the fact that I, as a consumer, am in charge of everything. I can decide what I buy, when I buy it, how I buy it. I can decide how I pay for it, when I pay for it, how much I pay for it. I control every aspect of the game. So it's kind of interesting. I was walking by the Apple store when I walked over here, and the first Apple store down on Prince Street. That table, when you walk in the front door, seems like a real design flaw right now. But when it was built, that's where the 3 or 4 iMacs were set up that you check that on. Now I walk into an Apple store, I can or I do not have to talk to a sales associate. If I do, I use Apple Pay. I pay. It's painless. I could even use the Apple Store app and not even talk to anybody and check out and be done with it. So it's these kinds of things I think brands need to be thinking about when they design retail spaces physically. I think to your point with Bonobos, it's a very interesting thing because what's happening too is the footprint of these stores are getting much smaller. They're really becoming, I hate to say it this way, but kind of like glorified customer service outlets where the consumer is highly informed when they walk in and they don't really need to be sold on anything at the retail environment. They need to be just, it's a transactional thing, or it's just, I don't want to walk out with it, just ship it to my house and be done with it. So that's kind of where we fall in this picture of what's happening today and going forward in retail.
Yeah, I think it's.
I didn't get through any of this.
Oh, go ahead.
We'll get
Go ahead.
there.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. We can come back. We can come back to it because I think what I want to do is kind of segue into brand because I think that's a huge piece of this. Making the connection on the online piece and the brick and mortar piece, making sure that they're synergized. But with that, I want to just introduce Charles Petretti, who's the Vice President of Store Design, Store Planning and Construction for Christian Dior. Charlie and I have a long history together, along with Mike Roskowski, who I think is out there somewhere, founding members of Bartolus Architects many, many years ago. 1991, I think I met Charlie. And we worked together for a long time and have worked with lots of different brands. Charlie has joined Dior. I think it's a great move. Charlie spearheaded work for Cartier and all the Richemont brands and lots of different very, very high-end brands. And one of the things, Charles, maybe you want to talk about, Dior is this incredibly strong brand, and it's really about that prototype and carrying that through. So maybe where Adam might be talking more about regionalizing a Saks Fifth Avenue in southern Florida and what happens in New York, Dior is more about Dior. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about your guys' thoughts on that.
First of all, it's great to be here with you and old colleagues and familiar faces. And, I will say that I'm part of a legacy of Christian Dior. I'm very lucky to be in the position I am in. It's a 70-year tradition. And my job is to build projects here in North America and Canada and Mexico and Panama, things like this. But a little history about the brand. I'll jump on this. Christian Dior was obviously an incredible fashion designer. He aspired to be an architect. He aspired to be an artist, and a little bit of some gardening in there as well, which is very funny how it's transcended the years. I mean, the man really only developed collections for 10 years, from 47 to 57, and he passed away. But the legacy lives on because that collection was so strong. And he's had incredible caretakers along the way, and I'm lucky to be one of these guys. So to talk a little bit about the brand, what's amazing is, it's couture. High sewing, it's an amazing amount of effort and time that goes into our pieces. The sum of the parts create an incredible whole. And when you look at the pieces, the dresses and the clothing, despite whoever the designer is over the years, that culture of couture really goes down the pyramid all the way through store design. So, unfortunately, I do not have a lot of slides here. Actually, no slides. So, my slide will be 105 Green Street down the road here. So, as you wish, you can visit there. But this idea of we mentioned layering, and we're talking about the senses and how you inspire and evoke emotion. This is what we do in architecture, in art, in fashion, whatever it is we are up here talking about. It's always to generate some sort of a feeling, good, bad. It's art. You take it or leave it. It's fine, but it makes you move to the next level. For Christian Dior, it's about, we have an attitude, it's called savoir-faire. And it's an attitude of pushing and raising the bar. And you do not see it directly in front of you, but you see over the years how it develops into something amazing. And how do you do that? You push yourself. You push yourself in store design. You push yourself in fashion and clothing. And, this is the exciting part for me. I'm an architect, and had that personal connection with Mr. Dior, which is amazing. Also wanting to be an architect. But to see the boutiques that we have today, it is a retail establishment. In the end, it's meant to sell merchandise, but it's also meant to be an experience. And the experience is everything for our clients. And we want them to walk in and never leave. So, we want them to be comfortable. We want them to ask about the space in general. I mean, Christian Dior is sister of LVMH, as you may know. Both brands work quite a bit with Peter Marino, who I'm sure we all are aware of. And that concept is what we are currently in today. But it is about texture. It's about color. It's about movement. It's about smells. It's about, again, I want to stress senses. It's all about, it's a multifaceted feeling you have, so that one person may react to one thing, another person may react to another. But if I read that definition before, it's thank you. One sense evokes the other. I think it's when you hit all of them, it's an amazing experience.
You've set me up to sound fairly intelligent. I'm going to try now, because we've said this in our retail group. Maya Angelou, a quote from her, she said, "I will forget what you did, I will forget what you said, but I will never forget how you made me feel." So for us, I think it's an interesting thing, because I think that's what we're all trying to accomplish, especially now when I said before that your standard transactional retail has changed. There's so many ways to buy these things. There's so many places to buy these things. What we're creating now is trying to create an emotional connection. Adam, we spoke, you brought up earlier the FF&E, the heavy FF&E that happens at Saks, and how those, I alluded to the regionality of your design in each of these areas, and how it changes a little bit. You also talked to me about, and I know we're doing it at Saks here in New York, I won't give away too many things, but there's, in other stores, you've created a denim bar and bourbon,
Correct.
serving bourbon, which I need to go do soon.
Yes.
Barber shop and all those wonderful. Yeah, let's do it. Maybe are there any examples you can talk about there and see how that's
Right.
maybe affected the sales? I think that's something we want to make sure our clients understand, that when you use that square footage to do that and take the merchandise off the floor, that's our toughest argument usually with the commercial guys.
Correct, absolutely. I mean, regionality is very important to us at Saks Fifth Avenue. We have, everywhere we go, we try to bring a little bit of New York to that area. Even from, even as far as Hawaii, which is what is under construction currently right now. We are bringing New York to Hawaii, but yet we are mandated we were mandated to have a Hawaiian sense of place there, which was very interesting to kind of meld those two. And we collaborated with a wonderful design firm, Jeffrey Hutchison, on that particular project, which is great. For example, well, you know what, I can't pick between my children, Michael, but I love you all equally. So in Beverly Hills, in Beverly Hills Men's, we had I was flipping through those earlier, the Denim Bar. We were really regional there. We took an unused basement and where it was used for storage. It was cobwebs of low voltage wires that God only knows where they went to in that building, mannequins, and I don't even know what was down there at the time, but lots of stuff. And we tried to bring down the men's contemporary merchandise from the third floor down to the basement and activate this unused square footage. And down there, we really use materials. Oh, I don't know.
Did you get all that?
You got all that? I'm actually not
Every
sure
example
that.
he just talked about.
There we go. Oh, very good. So we tried to activate this floor. We opened up the stairs down here and used this bespoke wood flooring. We used a paving system that was very eco-friendly. That's supposed to be used outdoors. It was the first time it was ever used on an indoor application. Bringing lots of very interesting pieces of visual elements that we bought on site at Butterfield. We have a LA-based artist here. His name is Carlson Clay that came up with this mural. And downstairs, really, we were creating a hangout zone. We have a pool table that was from New York down here, and there's like a billiard store down here. There's an antique piece that we had shipped across country. And there is a salon down there, a John Allen salon, which we also have in the New York store, so that men can come down, hang out, play a little bit of pool, have a glass of bourbon, and shop for a little denim at the same time. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
It was very cool.
Cool. Brandon, curious about when you opened the brick and mortar stores. What kind of uptick did Bonobos see on the online? Just curious how that reaction was.
Well, when we first started opening up brick and mortar, I think the need from what we saw in 2011 was really realized. I think that now that we're seeing brick and mortar stores who don't have the online business, they're now like, oh, we should probably get our e-commerce business up. And now e-commerce businesses, they're like, ooh, I think we need to have the brick and mortar too. So definitely the uptick in business is there. And you were talking about designing for feeling, you know. And though we're not, you know, we're a small company, we're just getting out of that startup phase. We're not using, you know, high-end materials yet. But what I can say is that a lot of our guys, when they come in, their feeling that they come in and leave with is, that was really easy. I've heard it so many times. They come and shop, and I'm just over here, and they're like, oh man, that was easy. And a lot of our locations are sent around, you know, like Brookfield. Amex is right there. It's guys, you know, on our flagship on 17th. It's a lot of business guys around in and out all the time. And again, those guys, they don't really want to spend a lot of time. They don't have the time. So as far as the design of our stores, like there's, you know, things that we do that make it really easy and really flexible. The one thing for flexibility for us that again will translate to the ease and the feeling of ease in shopping for the customer is that for a traditional retailer, you will notice that there's like a high tide and low tide. Right now it's holiday, you have a ton of product. Right after holiday, you're gonna have like nothing. Everything's gonna be on sale. So a traditional retailer will be able to fill out their space in a low tide season with core product. But we don't have that option because we have one of everything. So in that low tide, our stores can tend to look a little more, I'll say, more showroomy, I guess. And so the idea behind designing our stores and one thing that we've done, see those are our pegboards. We put most of our design into designing those pegboards. And it's still a work in progress because that pegboard has to be able to handle the low tide and high tide. It has to make the product look good when there's nothing, and it has to make the product look good when there's a lot. So again, that feeling of the consumer being like, wow, that was easy, it definitely pervades our design in this sense too.
Guys, if anybody has questions, yeah, go ahead.
For Brendan, to understand the process of having that translation between the online experience in store, and sort of were you in that process of translating that branding and that image?
So the kind of the translation, when you're shopping online, I think you get the ease of shopping because you're just clicking a button. It's really quick. Sometimes when I'm shopping online, I make a mistake and I actually buy something. So it's very quick and easy. Oops. And also, we have what we call, which are equivalents to customer service agents. We call them ninjas. So we have ninjas. So when you're online, you have all the freedom that you want to buy what you want, when you want it. No one's telling you to do anything. And also you have that backup. You can email, chat, or call while using the website are ninjas. So you get, there's a lot of ease. Now, when translating that to the guide shop, one, it's the idea that we are designing our stores purely based, heavily based on the idea of customer service. So again, we don't have a traditional point of transaction table. We have more of what is like I would say, a kitchen countertop. So it's more of like a gathering space. Really clean, minimal. Again, the pegboard design, making the product look easy. And as well, when you walk into a guide shop, how you're getting that added customer service like you can get with the ninjas online, is that our guides, as we call them, you can set up an appointment or walk in and be set up with an appointment, and that's when you're getting that one-on-one service. So in the way that almost you kind of guide yourself through our website, that guide is there walking you through almost like it's like a virtual website. So we've seen that transition to brick and mortar work really well, and people are loving that they can now get both worlds.
Thanks, Brendan. Can I ask a couple more questions, or should we go to Q&A in the group? Go for it. All right. Bradley, I'm going to ask you a question that I don't like when people ask me, so you can tell me to shut up if you want me to. But with what you guys do, with the connection of technology and our smartphones and the connection to all these brands and strengthening that, I got to ask, what's the future of that? Where is that going, and how do you, again, I hate this word, future-proof a store experience and make sure that you're ready for what's going to happen tomorrow, which we all don't know?
I don't want to answer that question.
Okay, good.
I think, if you look back at it, it happens again and again, right? The internet was supposed to be the death of print, or e-books, for example, right? E-com was going to be the death of retail. And in the end, you realize that's not the case, that really they complement one another. And the brands that are thinking about this strategically are the ones who realize that. And so the brands have to be pushing it all the time and thinking. What's interesting, though, today makes it so much easier is that we have e-commerce is strong. It's been around for 20 years now. There's so much data that companies can learn about their consumer through their shopping habits online that they can almost tell exactly how this consumer shops. And they know they can break them down in different types. And when that consumer comes in the door, they know how to behave to that. So as long as they keep reading this data and analyzing and understanding it and actually activating around it, I think the future is amazing. And it's going to be something that will continue to grow and evolve. And it all comes back, I think, again, to making that really tight experience that drives one to the other and makes people engaged in the brand, and that's when you start to feel it inside, and that's that thing we want brands to resonate with. So
that's great, thank you. Last thing, and then maybe we'll open up to some questions. Charles, with Dior, Dior is such a strong brand, and as is Saks, but it's an older brand. Dior has done a great job of never feeling old. In some cases, you might have a brand that you know, you might say, oh, that's where my grandmother shopped, and you know, I love my grandmother, but you know, I'm ready to move on. Dior seems to have always stayed kind of ahead of that, as has Saks Fifth Avenue and other brands. Well, in some cases, no, it's a good.
Yeah, I feel like
that's the right
yeah.
place to make. Yeah, because
Right, I feel like in some certain markets we were that. I
Yeah.
feel like we were a little bit like where your grandmother shopped, and what we're trying to do is just not alienate that customer, and through the different designs that you've been seeing, it's where we're going in the future is not it's for everybody.
Yeah, yeah. I think of a brand like Burberry, you know, where trench coat company in the 40s, 30s, 40s. Mike Roskowski can tell me more about the history of that. But you know, they changed their image completely. It was a perception that absolutely changed, and you can buy a bikini, you know, Burberry bikini now. You know, I mean, there's a whole different thought about what Burberry is and who they are. But with Dior, maybe you can tell me to shut up too if you want. That's okay too.
No, I mean, again, back to kind of pushing the envelope. And as much as we are an older brand, 7 years old, we continue to try to reinvent what we're about. And right now, currently, we have two different concepts. There's a classic concept that's based on the mansion in Paris, as well as on 57th Street. And then there's a modern concept that we have here on Green Street. And both are relevant. And it's a little contextual in terms of where we would place those designs. But it is about trying to figure out the next thing. And again, it's back to pushing. A little bit has to do with, you know, that classic style is based on a classic design of clothing. The modern concept is a little bit based on the newest designer that we have, and we look forward to the next designer, which will then push to the next level. There's no sitting on this. It's always running and moving forward, and you know, you look behind for lessons learned, but you look to the future for, you know, what's exciting and next.
And even like going back to regionality, actually, even in the same city, we're opening up a smaller Saks Fifth Avenue down at Brookfield Place that's been well publicized, and it's going to be the exact antithesis of everything that we were just talking about and all the images that you saw up there, because it is downtown and it is at Brookfield Place, and it will have that more modern, really like modern kind of feel. So, yeah.
Q&A. Okay, unless you guys have anything else you want to say. If anybody has any questions for the panel.
I don't think I need the mic, but
Okay, speak.
I'd like to ask the architectural designers, speaking of synesthesia, if you've ever been tempted to use scent or aroma, and if you have, how has that impacted sales?
Charles, I think you brought that up before.
Well, it's not. It is part of our brand, you know, fragrances, perfume, and cosmetics, and it's not something that we pump through the air conditioning system. It's just part of what we have in terms of just that fragrance in the air of the perfumes themselves, and it's actually quite alluring to some people. But we do that through the product, and then we also have incredible floral bouquets that is an ode back to the gardens and things like this. But it also, you know, there is a little bit of that in the air. It's funny, I can say before Dior as an architect, there's always a classic, you know, every client would ask, should we do it or should we not? You know, the scents in the air conditioning systems, and more often than not, in my case, it was something that you would move away from. And I don't know if it was the thought of, you know, one of the Abercrombie and Fitch or something like this.
Hits you hard.
Yeah, it's a little heavy.
I remember when Nike Town opened on 57th Street, Nike Town in Chicago. It was a subtle thing, but they pumped in, you know, when you were in the tennis area, everybody knows the smell of a tennis can when you open it up, and in the football area you smell smelly guys or whatever you smell in that area. Whatever. But no, it was a very subtle thing, but you sensed it, and the athletes that were shopping there really, really understood it and got it. And I think it was wildly successful, obviously, for them as an incredible store. But did you want to? Yeah, go ahead.
You know, scent memory is a very powerful thing, and it is, and it can trigger all kinds of reactions back to our childhood. It's an amazing way to pull feelings and attitudes out of people. And I think you see now there's a big trend of bespoke custom fragrances for brands that, you know, with the idea that if the physical experience is amazing, you're going to trigger something else with the scent, so that when you go home and you light that candle, it's like, oh yeah, I remember being at the Soho House in Miami. Like it's that kind of thing you want, and therefore I don't think this should be something that's discounted at all. I think that's probably the most basic way of pumping a tennis ball smell, right? But it's powerful.
Definitely a very.
It's very brand specific.
Yeah.
You know, we wouldn't do it at Saks Fifth Avenue, but I don't think so.
Walk around the first floor, though.
Not because, right, if you walk around the first floor, any cosmetics area, you're going to have that aroma, and it's going to be a lot there to handle. And I think that, like, with the scent, even with, like, you know, restaurants and in-store cafes and things like that, you have the aroma of the food and everything, and you want to, you know, all that kind of thing. And you just want to make sure that you aren't bringing back any bad memories or whatever. Like, for me, for example, I hope there's somebody here from the Venetian in Las Vegas. Like, I cannot walk inside of that hotel because of the scent that they're pumping in the air. It's nauseating to me.
Did something happen there that...
No. I couldn't even spend any. I couldn't even gamble.
Thank you. I know.
I
Well,
couldn't even
we're
gamble
all
in there.
friends here. You can tell us.
Yeah, no, I couldn't even walk. So, you know, exactly. I know. I would admit to it. That happened at another cafe.
You would, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. That happened at another casino. But it's not that it's a bad thing. You know, I think that's very interesting because, like, really, this is a really good conversation because you really want to touch on all the senses. And I do think, just like I said at the beginning of the discussion, that we do want to hit on all the senses. And I think in a particular department that will happen. And I think for certain, you know, for Abercrombie and Fitch, hey, you know what? It works for them, and that's, you know, that's their demo. They love that. So I would assume.
Anybody else have questions for the panel?
Yes, back there.
Hello, my name is Ina. I'm a student at FAT. Thank you so much for your time and knowledge. And I have two questions, so maybe which ones to go into more. The first one is about experience and concept, because everything that we design, product design, interior design, it's all that is about experience. So what do you think is there's something about retail that makes retail design special, not just design? And the second one about pushing the bar, about high-end and about retail design. What do you think is going to be the major, not the problem, the major this thing that you have to fight against in the next 10 or 15 years in retail design? And thank you.
Okay.
Somebody want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk a little bit about it. I think you know, a little bit of a challenge is obviously with retail, you're trying to appeal to the masses, and you're trying to appeal to an older client or a younger client, and I think it's finding that that sweet spot that really attracts or attracts as much of that as possible. And again, you know, back to, you know, raising the bar. It's just there's nothing
All right, you're out.
That's it. You know, it's not about, you know, the challenges. I mean, the challenges are what push us and what make us better, and it's really hard to say what the next thing will be. So I think you just you roll with it. The thing that's great about retail and what is unique is that it's quick, and it's, you know, you look at the boutiques and you look at the design of these, you know, one day you're in, the next day you're out. I mean, so it's a constant evolution. It's part of the what we represent, and you know, you just always are. So that's the exciting part. You know what you know, you feel good about right now. In 10 years from now, it'll be something completely different, and that is, it's exciting, not challenging. I mean, it's challenging, but it's also very exciting.
Am I allowed to answer that? Is that cool? All right. No, I you know, as far as experience is concerned, and where I think things are going, you know, for me, that customization thing I think is huge. I had an experience at the Converse store in Garden State Plaza, New Jersey, where I live. My daughter had a birthday party, a wildly expensive birthday party. It was incredible. She had 11 of her friends, and they do a custom shoe thing, right? You sit down, and the girls were there drawing what they wanted their shoe to look like, which was really kind of cool. And you know, they were doing their thing, and they all designed their own shoe. And then they were able to get an iPad, and they selected the grommets and the laces, and they could put their name on it and all this wonderful stuff. There was a machine behind them that was pretending to actually build the shoe. it turns out that you do the iPad thing and then you order it and it comes a little bit later. However, there was a crowd of people watching this party go on, and it was a connection for all the people as I walked around. I think half the people that watched that came back and said, "Oh wow, that's a cool party," until they asked me how much it cost to have all the girls left with this, custom pair of shoes. I won't tell you how many. You can ask me later how expensive it was. But I thought it was incredible how it connected those girls for one, and they all went to school the next day, and I think some of them wondered why they weren't invited to the party. And I was like, hey, look, they got the shoes, and I don't. But anyway, my daughter had to deal with that. But I think everybody who was kind of behind there watching this happen made a huge connection with Converse, and it was just incredibly successful. This crowd got bigger and bigger, and obviously Converse is a great brand that has kind of reinvented itself.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go.
So for the note of raising the bar for a company like us, we're a smaller company, and again, like I've been saying, we're very heavily customer service based. I think, in my eyes, we've been kind of teetering now on this trend of being able to attract customers into the store to make shopping a part of their daily lives. Coffee shops, bookstores, Saturdays in Kilamaco, they both have both. And that's kind of, in my eyes, making that shopping experience almost not a shopping experience. It's how do we get people in more frequently, just a part of their daily life, rather than having maybe the anxiety that I know some people have by having to go have an outing for shopping. So in relation to the design for us, it's what can we do to make people buying Bonobos, what is the shopping experience, what can it be for their daily life? How can it just be multiple stops on the road, not just one big stop and then that's it? So designing for us is really, it's again going back to the flexibility. It's really focusing on, like Rebecca Minkoff, if you guys seen her store, she got a ridiculous touchscreen in there. If we are going to invest in high materials, or have something stand the test of time, it's going to be something like that, rather than having just absolutely blown out the materials on the flooring or whatever. It's going to be more geared towards the customer experience again.
Actually, we have a staying right now, which you decided to make. I literally laughed out loud, and there's some people on my team, past, present, and perhaps future, in here. Our motto has been experience is everything, and it's honestly, this is a really exciting time to be a part of retail design. I mean, you need to have challenges. If it was easy, then we wouldn't have employment, and the fast pace of retail, sure, we haven't finished building that, but you want to change everything already? Okay, sure, yeah, no problem. It's job security. Come on. I mean, so
Absolutely.
It's a very exciting pace, and and as far as the whole technology thing, and this is a big conversation. Woo! All right.
Let's go drink. That sounds good. All right.
The whole thing about technology, you have to be very careful right now, and we're analyzing that right now, actually.
I got to get back to the office and work on that. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right, Michael. No, both of us. So it's about how do you using technology as a tool? Everybody's afraid that online's, what you were mentioning before, I think that's a really great analysis. Online is not going to take over the retail experience, especially for certain sectors, right? People that are shopping in luxury want to go and touch and feel and try it on and be pampered and have a glass of champagne and bring their girlfriend and have a wonderful experience. It's how can you use technology as a tool, and the technology is not going to take over the one-on-one experience, the human contact experience. It's how are you going to better use that, and I think that's where we've been really kind of hinting on, and what we were discussing earlier.
I think with the department store example, department stores were becoming big in the U.S. R.H. Macy and Marshall Field and all that. They knew it. They understood it. There were dancing girls and there was piano players and there was all this. There was this additional thing, and then over the years it fell off because it was really about quantity, and you had the mega malls and you had this happen. And it seems like we're we're heading back there, and we need to. I mean, it's about attracting customers with more than just, again, I've said it before, but the transactional retail is part of it, but it's becoming a smaller and smaller part because we can go on our phone and order a Ferrari, if we want. Not me, but anyway. Anybody else? Questions? Yeah.
To tie into the customization and the All-Star, that's all based on shoes. Do you think that will also get there with clothing, and will that be part of the indoor experience? Customizing, getting the client involved with their own clothing design.
I think it's happening in a lot of places.
Absolutely is. Yeah.
That's exactly that brand experience that companies want, because it's not only just for the person who's doing the experience now. Like you said, it's all the people who are watching that, and suddenly it starts a wildfire, and it's a big engagement tool. Right?
How do you do that? How do you see that in the future?
I think you're going to find that there's just more bespoke, and I hate that word, but I can't think of a better word.
It's the right word, yeah.
But, experiences around it where you really, like I said earlier, we know what the consumers like, almost down to a T. We understand their habits, all these sorts of things. So you can really build these unique custom experiences around it. And I think that's an ongoing trend that'll keep going, because that is what makes a brand experience, when it feels like it's just you. You're not a number anymore. You're the only focus of the brand for that moment, and it's something you remember and you want to come back to.
But I think it depends on the brand. I mean, a Dior is not going to say, "Hey, choose the stitching pattern that you want in the
luxury
bag."
brands are luxury brands.
Right.
That's
different.
Luxury brands.
Yeah. But you can monogram that, or you can,
you can go down a couple notches to maybe still find brands, but.
In beauty, you have that ability much more easy than in like ready-to-wear or clothing necessarily. You can customize your own color. You can customize your own fragrance. Whatever you like, and it's all about putting that together for yourself, which is great. I think it's a very cool experience for people. And they had that with denim for sure. There was that big denim trend, with Ernest Sohn, where you can choose your own thread, choose your own pocket, choose your own grommets, choose your own hardware colors, and they still have that, and it's still fun. I mean, I love that kind of stuff.
There's 3x1 over down Merchant Street that does.
Yeah.
It's amazing. You look in the back and you see them sewing the clothes. And
Levi's, I mean,
it's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It would definitely contribute to the experience.
As far as the customization on the bonobos end, it's like I will say that our founders, I think they got it right, and it really made some of the things for us a lot easier. As far as customization, because the fact that it goes back to our stores, we don't have to buy large spaces, we don't have to have back of houses, so that means a lot for me, but that also means a lot for our clothing designers. So we like to say that we're the most tailored brand out there without actually being tailored, because they know the designers, they can design such a span of clothing, so many color schemes, so many fits, because they don't have to store it in the stores. All of our stock is held 30 minutes outside Boston. That's where everything comes from. So as far as the customization for bonobos, we have at high point for us for wash chinos, we have like 20 colors. And we have within that 4 different fits. And then within that, there's 11 different waist sizes. So I think someone did the numbers. It's like, if you were to see all of that quantity, that's 2,500 pairs of pants. So as far as us, our customization comes from our idea that, we don't have to carry inventory in our stores. And therefore, that allows a lot of different departments to act very non-traditionally from other retailers.
I just got the high sign. We're going to go eat and drink all the food and champagne we can. Thank you, guys. This has been great. Appreciate it. Thank you guys all for coming. Yeah, this was great. Good.
Thank you again to all of our moderator and panel. And thank you all for coming. If you have any questions, me or Jeff, or feel free to ask questions to the panel. And eat and drink. Thank you.